Welcome in this video where I would like to show you how you can set up a flow easily in Power Automate Microsoft Copilot Studio using SharePoint and an online Excel table in order to register the data of the invoices you receive. Basically what you need to do at the very end, you just need to drop invoices, not one by one, also grouped to a SharePoint library folder. Then the process catches the invoices, OCRs them, manages them, and fills out an Excel table with the relevant data, and then moves the invoices from this folder you dropped in into the processed or the error folder, depending on whether the flow runs successfully or not. Let me dive into it. The topic of today's video is automated invoice processing in Microsoft Copilot Studio, Power Automate, and SharePoint. The main logic and the main flow is we are doing an OCR in Power Automate, then extracting the relevant data, writing the ones into an Excel file, an online Excel file, then moving the original file into the processed or the error folder, basing on whether the flow runs successfully or not. The main architecture, we have a SharePoint library folder structure for the invoices, then using the Power Automate for the OCR, then we have the Copilot Studio agent, we have the online Excel table as the registry, the database of the invoice data at the very end, and finally our invoices will be moved to the processed or the error folder, depending on the successful processing of the invoices or not. The SharePoint library structure looks in the following way. We have in the shared documents folder an invoices subfolder, and within this invoices subfolder 4 other folders. The one called error is dedicated to store the invoice files, these image or PDF files that couldn't be processed with this flow. We have the invoice data folder containing the invoice registration online Excel file. We have the OCR txt folder, which is the place for temporary text files with the OCR data. I will show you quickly what I mean by this. And we have the processed folder where the invoices will be moved at the very end that have been successfully processed. The main folder, basically the root invoices folder, is the place where we need to drop in the invoice files, which can be images, JPEG, PNG, and so on, and PDF documents as well. File types that can be OCR'd with the Power Automate's recognized text and image and document action. Let me show you how it looks in the SharePoint library. Within the shared documents folder we have the invoices subfolder, and within this invoices subfolder we have these 4 one I mentioned to you. Each of them is empty at the moment, except for the one containing the invoice registration online Excel file, which is the database where the invoice data will be stored. The online Excel table is located in the invoice data folder, as I mentioned to you. It has only one sheet with one table and 7 required columns: the invoice number, the vendor name, customer name, invoice date, due date, gross total amount that can be found on the invoice, and the currency. It looks like this, the invoice registration online Excel file within the invoice data folder and having the 7 columns I mentioned. Then let me show you step by step how this process is built up. We start with the Power Automate trigger. Basically, the trigger of this Power Automate flow is when a file is created in a folder and we are watching the invoices folder as a root folder. We are initializing a variable, a string variable called all text in this case. After that, we are doing an OCR action, recognize text in image or document. And then we are building an output. We are appending each line and each recognized text from this OCR action into this string variable, all text. And the pattern is the following. We have the text that was recognized, and after that we are storing the top and left order coordinates of the bounding box of the text. And after that, saving this string variable, the content of the string variable, as a txt file in the OCR txt folder. which can be found in the invoices root folder as well. Let me show you how this flow looks in Power Automate. We have the trigger of this flow when a file is created in a folder, and the location folder is the invoices folder, which is monitored by this action. Then we are initializing a string variable or text. We are having the recognize text in document action, where the image that needs to be recognized is coming from the trigger action. Then we have a for each loop with the following input data, and within this for each loop we have an apply to each loop, which is going through on all lines, all text that was recognized, all bounding boxes that has been recognized by the recognize text in image or document action. And in this apply to each root we have the append to string variable action, in which we are appending to the all text string variable the following formula. With this formula we are building out that structure that I mentioned to you, that first we have the text that was recognized, and after that we are storing the top and left coordinate of the bounding box of the text, and as a continuous string that we will be able to save in a txt file afterwards. This formula looks in the following way. After we have the all text string variable, we are creating a file in the invoices OCR text folder, and the file name is the name of the file that is coming from the trigger action extended with the doc.txt extension, and the content is the string variable all text. And finally we are handing off the data to the Copilot Studio agent, in which we are sending to the dedicated agent the following body message. OCR text path is basically the output of the create file action. That means this is the path of the txt file containing the OCR data, and we have the original file ID, which is also coming from the trigger action, which is the file ID of the original image or PDF file in this case. And only these two data, the path and the ID, that we are handing over to the Copilot Studio. After that, the Copilot Studio agent should find the content and the data belonging to these IDs and paths later on from itself. Now, what I mentioned to you, the handoff to Copilot Studio happens with the two data within one prompt message, which is the OCR text path, the full path to the txt file stored in the OCR txt folder, and the original file ID, the file ID of the image or the PDF file of the invoice. The agent configuration, and now we are moving to the Copilot Studio. We have the GPT-4o model, set it for the agent, generative orchestration on. The global instructions: if a prompt contains .txt file path, use the invoice processing topic. We will have a dedicated topic to manage this flow, and this is the only instruction the agent has. And we have three tools that are active: add the row into a table, which is an online Excel tool; move file, a SharePoint tool. We have two of them. One is dedicated to move the files to the process folder, the other one to move the files to the error folder. Let's look at this agent, how it looks in Microsoft Copilot Studio. As I mentioned, through GPT-4o, generative orchestration turned on. We have the only instruction I mentioned to you here, and it's jumping to the invoice processing topic if this condition is met. And after that we have the three tools: add the row into a table, where we have the fixed settings with the SharePoint site, the document library, the file name, and the table. These are pointing to the invoice registration.xls6 online Excel file table. Then we have the move file action number one, which is set it up in order to move the files in this SharePoint site to the same destination SharePoint site and to the processed folder. And if another file is already there, I have the option 2, which means that move the file with a new name. And I have also the third tool, which is set it up in the same way, to the errors folder. Let's move forward and let's check this invoice processing topic. Basically, what is done here, we are reading the input, we are processing the file, the TXT file, and forwarding the OCR message back to the Microsoft Copilot Studio agent. We are extracting the OCR file path and the original file ID with a prompt action from the input prompt. Then we are jumping into an agent flow where we get the file content from the OCR text file, and we will return this as a variable, as an OCR text string variable to the agent. We are getting the file metadata of this text file and deleting that within this agent flow after we send back the OCR data to the Copilot Studio agent. And after that, the agent has the OCR data and can work with that and can process it, store it in different variables and so on. I will show you how it is managed after that. The main thing here, in the very beginning, we just sent the file path and the file ID as a body message to the agent, and after that, with this action, we are grabbing back to the content of the file where the real long OCR data can be also stored. Let me show you how it is built up. In this topic, we have the invoice processing topic here. The first action we have is a prompt action, get OCR file path and original file ID. The input of that is the activity text, system activity text variable, which is the original prompt that the agent received. Within this action, I have such a simple prompt. The input is the path and the ID. The output should be a JSON variable, which is built up in the following way. It has first the OCR file path and then the original file ID, both extracted from the input text. And if I am testing it, it looks something like this. After this prompt action, I have an agent flow. Get invoice OCR text is the name. The input of this agent flow is the file path, which I'm getting with a structured output from this JSON variable. And what comes back is the OCR text variable as a string, what I mentioned to you, which contains the full OCR text that was recognized in the Power Automate flow with the recognize text from image and document action. Let's see how this agent flow is built up. I have here the get invoice OCR text agent flow. The input is the path, which is coming from the original prompt that was given to the agent. Then I have the get file content using path action in the SharePoint site. I'm searching for this .txt file, which contains the OCR text data. After that, I'm simply responding this as a string variable, the file content that I get from the previous action, back to the Copilot Studio agent. Then I'm getting the metadata of this same file, and with the delete file action, now I have the file ID from the previous get file metadata action. I can just simply delete this temporary file, which I mentioned to you that at the end of the processing of each invoice, there remains no .txt file in the OCR text folder. Then I have sent it back to the agent, the OCR text string variable. Then I can continue my flow back in the invoice processing topic. What happens there after that? I have the OCR data, which has the following build-up, the text that was recognized, and after that the top and left coordinates of the bounding box containing each text. I will also show you with an example how it looks within the flow. Then I have a prompt action in which I'm building a JSON variable with 8 keys: the invoice number, vendor, customer, invoice date, due date, gross total amount, and currency. These should be recognized from this OCR text. And I'm having a last variable all data's awk, which can be yes or no, depending on whether all previous datas are okay, they were recognized and they are existing, or no. Some general rule: ignore grammar or spelling mistakes, and in this way that I'm having the coordinates of the bounding boxes, the agent or the AI can also recognize that or work with that in the logic how it's connecting the datas. Let me show you how it looks like in the topic we have. After our agent flow, we have now the OCR text, which is a string variable. I'm logging it, basically sending it as a message. In the activity log, I will be able to check what I have within this. And then a prompt action comes called invoice processing logic, which has only one input, and this OCR text is the input, and the output will be a JSON variable. Let me show you how it is built up. I have model O3 turned on. First, I have one input, which is the OCR input. I have a short description how this OCR input is structured. I have the text generated with OCR. I have a separation character. Then with this format or in this structure, I have the top coordinate of the bounding box of the text, and then after that the left coordinate, the bounding box of the text. And after this character, a new bounding box is coming. This is how this text file is built up. And what to do to get the data from this text and create a JSON output, which should look in the following way. I have the previously mentioned variables. By the due date, I have a longer description what should be done. The due date is basically the due date of the invoice from the OCR input. If the due date is not given as a date input, but given in any other way, for example, payment terms 15 days, then please calculate the due date from the invoice date. Always respond with a date or leave this empty if no data is present in order to determine the due date. The date format should be day, month, year. And all the inputs should exist, they cannot be empty. And at the very end, I have the all data's OK parameter, which can be yes or no, basing on whether all data above can be determined from the OCR input. And the general rule: please ignore grammar and spelling mistake. If I'm testing this, this can be an example JSON that is exported from this action. After that, I have a condition. If the parameter all data is OK is yes, so I have all the data that are required for the online Excel table, then I'm adding a row into the table, writing all 7 fields to table 1 in this online Excel file, and moving the file to the processed folder, the original image or PDF file. Then the other branch of this condition, if all data is OK, is no, then we just simply moving the file, the original image or PDF file, to the error folder within this SharePoint library. Let me show you within the topic. I have the condition. I have the structured output all data is OK. It should be equal to yes to go on this branch, which first adds a row into a table. In the background, I have the settings I showed you for the dedicated file and the dedicated table within this file. As the input, I need to set the followings. I'm using the formula here. It is built up in the following way. I'm having the invoice number, which is a structured output, invoice NO, from the invoice data's JSON variable, then the vendor, customer, invoice date, due date, and so on. All the data that are required, basically, that are the columns of the online Excel. I'm adding this here once again. Exactly. Then, After that, I have the move file to the processed folder tool. The input is the original file ID I received in the very beginning as the initial prompt of this Copilot Studio agent. And the other bench, if the value of the all data's awk parameter is no, is only a move file action, in this case the move file to the error folder, and as an input I have the same, the original file ID, which I'm getting with a structured output from the first JSON variable I determined in the beginning of this topic. I'm saving this topic now because I inputted here this formula, and I'm publishing this flow once again to have everything on the current state. This flow is published now, and let me show you now how this flow works with the processing of 3 image and 2 PDF invoice files. I'm showing you what files I received or I gathered from the internet as example invoice files. I have something like this, which is a simple invoice with invoice date, due date, total amount, everything. I have one which has no due date as an example. These were image files, and I have also PDF files. This one has 7 pages. In the very beginning I have a invoice due date given in this format, and after that I have more pages as well, which are containing the detailed items of this invoice. And I have a second one, a PDF, which has 2 pages. The second page is also the details of this invoice, the detailed items. The online Excel table is empty at the moment. In the invoice library, I have the folders, the processed, error, and the OCR text folder empty. In the invoice data folder, I have only the online Excel file. What I only need to do is I'm uploading all these files together to this SharePoint folder and checking what happens. If I want to follow up the process, I move first to the Power Automate, where I have my trigger flow, which I'm refreshing. And what I can see, that 4 seconds ago, all 5 files started to be processed. I have 2 bigger ones, the 2 PDF files. They are still under processing. Let's move now to the Microsoft Copilot Studio, to the activity. And I have here 3 flows already completed. The 4th one is in progress. And I will need the 5th one as well. The 5th one started. This is the longest PDF in this case. And this one is completed as well. Let me jump into one of these logs. I have only the trigger input, which is the OCR text path, the path of the txt file, and the original file ID, as we mentioned. Then the topic was triggered, the invoice processing topic, and within this I have the OCR text data in the following format. As I mentioned to you, I have the text eavesdropper ink that was recognized, and after that the top and the left coordinate of the bounding box of this text. Let's see the result. In the invoice registration online Excel file, I have 4 lines that was filled up. Let's check the SharePoint library. I have 4 files in the processed folder, and I have 1 file in the error folder. If I want to check the validity of the data, let's start with the first file, for example. This is the one having the invoice number US001, so row number 3 in this Excel. This means I have the East repairing, John Smith is the customer, invoice number is okay, invoice date the 11th of February 2019, 26th of February is the due date. I also have the total amount 154.06 and USD. Let us check a PDF form. This one is with the invoice number 15002. This is it. Company 1 Limited is the vendor, Company 2 International is the customer, invoice date is the 18th of April 2023, and here I have payable in 90 days as a due date input. It was calculated from this invoice date, and the result is the 17th of July 2023. Total amount 27,531.83 USD. They look okay, and the one that got into the error folder is basically the 103 having no due date input on the invoice. So all in all, with this flow, it's possible to drop multiple files at once into a SharePoint library. The processing is done in the background. You will see the results exactly, which was okay, which was not, and also the data that you want to see from the invoices in a structured online Excel table. Of course, you can add different columns to the tables. You can set up the prompt in a way that the different data are received from the OCR text file in this JSON variable that you can store in the online Excel table. If you have any other business flow ideas that you think would work to create a video about, please leave a comment below.